A lot of vendors, marketing measurement vendors who offer services like incrementality testing or marketing mix modeling have started offering something called always on incrementality as if it's a very promising new feature. But I will make an argument that it's not a thing really. There cannot be such a thing called always on incrementality. But before coming to that, let's actually understand what they are trying to mean by it. So first of all, incrementality testing is to understand how incremental your channel or your platform really is, ads platform, wherever you're running your campaigns. So historically or typically based on best practices on using statistical and other scientific concepts, you would have to periodically run it. Suppose you want to understand if your YouTube ads or suppose your certain section of your meta ads, some campaigns, these are being incremental or not, you would have to periodically also test. So it's not just run a test and then use that data for the next 2 years. You would have to keep doing that from time to time. If marketers have to keep doing that, it's a bit of a stress, right? Doing tests from time to time just to test incrementality. So just to try and address that, as if allegedly that they have a solution to it, they have presented this concept of always on incrementality. A lot of the popular vendors have started offering this concept. I like a lot of them, they do good work, but there cannot be any such thing as always on incrementality. So again, the marketers therefore would be able to log into the platform. They will be able to check okay, today it's incremental, that platform, that campaign is incremental. A few days later they log in and they say whether or not that it's incremental again still, or it wasn't incremental, now whether it has become incremental based on new data that is getting added. So my first argument why this doesn't make sense is, first of all, if you have a good incrementality model, it should not be dependent on such a little amount of data, like just a few days data, whatever is the gap between the last date and the day again that it's been checked. Your model should be robust enough, or else you really have to rerun the model, of course, if it's too many days. But if it's just a few days, which I think is the point of always on incrementality, it's trying to get within the zone of performance marketing, which is a very short-termist thing, like what's happening today, what happened yesterday, what's going to happen in the next 2 days. So that sort of short-term thing, it's also trying to get into that, but it's not meant to be this way. Incrementality testing is more statistically robust, it's a more scientific, more comprehensive methodology. This is not going to work. A few days of data should not be changing your model. So that definition of the model of something which should have taken into account things like seasonality, shifts you should have expected from external factors, other confounders, these things should have been included in the model already. Otherwise, it's not a model which is even worth its salt. That's the first argument I will make. The second argument is probably a bigger one, and which is that marketers actually have to take active participation in this process. It's not a passive thing. You don't just set up a test and it does its thing on its own. Marketers have to actively ensure that the control markets are left out of the treatment. There is no major changes happening in the controls as well. It's only in the treatment that should be the major change. I'm not saying that marketers cannot do their regular small scale stuff, that they do small changes, but any major structural changes, if they're made, then that kind of destroys the fundamentals of the experiment. This is a fact. This remains a universal fact. So that also always on incrementality is allegedly trying to address, because this is something that has always been one of the problems of adopting incrementality testing. But coming to that just in a minute, just to finish up this point then, so marketers have to proactively participate in this process whenever an incrementality test is actually going to be done. It's not just a case of the controls being treated as proper controls, but also SUTVA is there, like there should not be any spillover effects as well. Spillover simply means that the treatment and the control, there should not be any spillover between these. The treatment should not have a spillover to the controls. Also, there should be only one version of the treatment. There should not be multiple versions of the treatment. There should not be any interference, like I mentioned. There should not also be any case of network effects. It depends also on the method. Like for instance, if it's difference in difference, which is a very common method, there's also the very important parallel trend assumption that in the pre-period the parallel trend condition should be satisfied between the control and the test. So a lot of these things are important, and these obviously need to be properly controlled for, and the marketers have to actively participate in the process. So that's why again it gets immediately eliminated, the possibility of always on incrementality, just on the basis of these things. Now the question really comes, which I just alluded to a little bit just a minute back, as to why this is really being pushed, is because Firstly, marketers have a difficult time believing in a lot of stuff marketing measurement people say. There is a genuine trust gap, let's admit that, and I think everybody already knows that. There's always a lot of fancy reports from the marketing measurement space with a lot of cool charts and all, which say that it's not a modeling problem, it's not a data problem. Any problem that's there in the marketing measurement space is all about inaction, it's all about a trust gap, and it's always about whether or not actions are being implemented. And yes, of course, there's definitely there's need for more education on part of the marketers. They also need to understand the importance of analytics and measurement, but I think they also have a trust gap because the way their education is imparted, the way things are enforced on them, is often a little bit like it feels like an outsider is doing this. So I am a marketer turned measurement person, so I know what the marketers go through on a day-to-day basis. I understand that very well. I've been there, done that, so I can totally understand when it sounds so alien, why it can sound so alien, weird and outlandish when a very complicated mathematical or a technical system is imposed in the name of measurement, which does not really fit into your everyday or your regular sort of activities. So that's why marketers often don't trust it easily whenever such measures are suggested. So that is one reason why there's an adoption problem, so that there's an implementation gap or an actionability gap. You can give it a number of mouthful of names. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the point. There are some good insights. I'm not saying the insights aren't great from measurement players, but there is a trust gap, and in order to address that, they have come up with this idea that okay, you don't actually have to do anything, you don't have to even bother yourself or take the stress of ensuring that all the conditions or the assumptions are being properly fulfilled for the tests to be meaningful. They have come up with this concept of always on incrementality, but it's not real. It's not a real thing. You cannot have something called always on incrementality, and I think it's important that marketers understand this, because being misled, and I'm not saying fooled, but this almost is knocking on the door of that possibility. So I think it's better that marketers stay away from this idea or challenge this idea. Again, lots of fun, great things in the marketing measurement space. This is, as a person who is in the marketing measurement space, I'm not proud of this particular concept. So I would really recommend and encourage marketers to challenge this concept, push back on this, that how is it really possible. So this is exactly what I just wanted to say about this. Just a quick discussion on always on incrementality. I've been seeing this from a lot of vendors. Do let me know what you think. This is at least my perspective, and I think it's based on very scientific assessment of the situation. I don't think it's a real thing. It's not really possible. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. If you have implemented it, or if you think that it's possible, I would love to hear how is that possible. Do change my mind if you can. But thanks for watching. I talk about mentality testing and other such modeling a lot in my YouTube channel. So do give those videos a watch as well, and subscribe to it if you like my content. But that's it for this one. Thank you.